Hello everyone, welcome back to GreedFall. I'm kidding, this is the GreedFall review. So, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've been putting this off for quite some time. By now, I've been finished with GreedFall for roughly 2 weeks. I typically like to do my reviews a week after, let things settle, see how I feel about this. I didn't necessarily know how to approach this game. So this is a game I was looking forward to a lot. GreedFall is an RPG open world game that was developed by Spiders and published by Focus Home Interactive. And it's a game I've been looking forward to for over at least 3 years, because I don't remember exactly when the announcement trailer was. It might have been way back in 2016, I believe it was. So I was relatively excited for this game, to say the least, you know. But as all my reviews go, I have my pros, and then I have my cons, and then I give my overall consensus and a summary and a final score out of 10. 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. I've never given them 0.05. Or 0.5. I don't know if I'll go that far yet, but... So with the pros, what stands out about this game? Right away, it's the great characters and companions you get along your journey here. Siora, Vasco, Kurt, Petrus, and Afra are your 5 companions, and they are fantastic when it comes to being a counter to Desarde. They're likable, and they have great side storylines, and their arcs make them more compelling and intriguing, which overall helps you get immersed into this whole open world scenario and this story in itself. And genuinely, I gotta say that some of my favorite quest lines were, in fact, the companion quest lines you had to do to earn their trust. It made me like characters I initially didn't care much for. Petrus, for example, I didn't care much for, and I did his missions. Vasco, same way, I didn't really care much for him, but after he did his missions, I actually did care quite a bit about him. Afra is a character I was very neutral on, but her quest line was fun. I still am pretty neutral on Afra. Right now, I don't really have an attachment to her, but I don't hate her. But then again, I never really used her as much. In terms of the companions I use the most, it'd be Siora and Petrus as number 1, Kurt then next, and then Vasco, and then Afra. I liked Petrus's character a lot. It was someone I really had to grow to. I really didn't like him at first, but like I said, the more you worked with him and did his companion questline, I really started to open up towards him, and I think his character is done very, very well. Same with Siora's and Kurt's. I like their storylines, especially Kurt's. He has a very good companion questline when it comes to the Coin Guard, which goes hand in hand with the Coin Guard mission, which will come up later on in this review. But overall, great characters, and their voice acting is done fantastic. So, hopping into the next part, the diverse factions. So I like how each faction is in some way or another in conflict or rivaled with another, and it's overall ever-changing. I specifically liked the Coin Guard arc. The Coin Guard arc is phenomenal, and it plays a little bit into the main story, but you can choose whether or not you want to explore it as much, because it also dives into Kurt's story, and it is done very well, and I actually really, really did like it. And now an example of a faction I disliked tremendously was Thélème. I hated Thélème at the beginning of this game, and I knew right from the bat, I'm like, man, I'm not gonna like this. Just overly religious people. It's not gonna be fun for me. But you know what? As I played the game and did their quest line, you get to kind of shape the faction in a sense, or influence the faction in your own right. And I gotta say, towards the end of the game, Thélème was definitely one of my more favorable factions, and one of the factions I was able to work with the best. And I really opened up to him. But by the end, I gotta say, there weren't many factions I disliked. So, going off of that, the Coin Guard, you got I went over the Coin Guard, I went over Thélème. The Congregation of Merchants you really don't influence as much, so I'm not going to really throw that in there, because that's just The natives are very sympathetic. You really have a drive to be more sympathetic towards the natives, and I think that was expected. I knew I was going to be more sympathetic towards the natives already, because they overall just seem more likable. You are the invaders in this scenario, so you are the bad guys. The natives are necessarily just reacting to you and your factions. So I really appreciated the native story arcs as well. A lot of the side missions that went in there, and each tribe having their own specific quest to go into that, and that also impacted the main story as well. So that was nice. So the knots pissed me off, and I'll get into this because this will go into a con later on. But right now, the knots pissed me off because they are very ungrateful for a lot of the work you do. You do stuff for them, they go, okay, thanks, bye, and that's about it. They don't really do much, and they overall they were the only faction by the end of the game that I despised. The Alliance, it took me a while. I liked them, hated them, liked them, and then kind of really at the end felt kind of neutral. So the Alliance is rough. And these are all good things in a sense, because it makes these factions more diverse, and it makes it more, it makes you favor other factions over another. And so I do appreciate this, and these are good things about this. And so the Alliance, it continuously kept me changing because they were assholes, but then they weren't, and then, you know, it was hard to, you know, get on board when they were consistently being bad to everybody. So I appreciated that kind of diversity in each faction, that none of the factions were really good, but none were really bad either. They all had their motives and all their explanations, and I really appreciated that. Your decisions, to an extent, matter. There are multiple endings to this game, and I appreciate that, and I finally get to say there is a game out there that decisions really do matter. Now, for the graphics, I'm never a big graphics guy. If you've watched any of my reviews, graphics I kind of just tug in there and be like, here you go, there's that. Graphics are, you know, they're pretty. They're obviously not the focus. You know, they're not the best graphics I've ever seen, but you know what, they're work, and I'm very fine. I'm okay with that. I don't really think it breaks the game at all. I think it does very well, actually. The customization was fantastic. I loved the armor, the weapons, the upgrades you could get into the game. The level of cosmetics and the differences in appearances when it came to the armor and weapons was fantastic, as well as the diversity in what weapons you could use. I also appreciate as well. You could use a mace, broadsword, sword, or you could focus more on being a mage and use your ring there. But I liked that kind of diversity in there and how well it worked within this game. And the upgrades made it so if you like the set of armor, you can continuously make it better, which I did appreciate as well. The skill tree, now this is kind of go hand in hand. The skill tree in itself, where you just focus on what skills and what kind of character you want to be. You want to be a warrior, mage, be a mage, kind of thing. This was very well done. It was very paced. It was paced very well, and so, you know, you wouldn't get an upgrade that was necessarily very overpowered, but you know what, it was balanced very well, and it was very in-depth, and it was one of the things I gotta say I really did appreciate with this. You got a skill point every time you leveled up, and so that helped as well. But yeah, like I said, we'll get into a little bit more later on. So the crafting, very good. It's a bit generic, but it's nice that it's there. I appreciated the fact that it was at least there. The side quests. Now I gotta say, and this kind of goes into the companion missions and the faction missions, side quests are really what shined here. And I mean, this is what shined in this game. These are the things that got me engaged into this game. When the storyline was bugging me, or kind of just felt the side quests are really what pulled me into the lore and into the game itself, and it's done very, very well. Anytime I kind of needed a break, there were always side quests there to kind of pop up to help you take your mind off things. Granted, there were a lot of side quests, and I'm a perfectionist, so in the game walkthrough you might hear me complain that, oh my god, there's so many missions. But I did appreciate it, because overall, looking back at it, it was a nice distraction from the main story. I think they could be spaced out better. Not instead of having one story mission, you unlock 3 side missions. Have it so you gradually get introduced to these, side quests, rather than just a flat out boom, more side quests as soon as you did this mission. It's like, all right, slowly roll. But I think it would have been better if it was introduced a bit better. But overall, side quests were what shined. So the cons. Where to start? Relationships. I think it wasn't expanded upon enough. For me, I only saw suspicious, nice, and friendly, and I'm assuming there are 2 other little levels, their tiers, for when you get negative related faction or negative feelings towards negative character feelings towards your own. And then upon romancing a character, you also get loving, but that in itself, romancing is kind of, it's not flushed out enough. You get the possibility to romance a character, but it's just, it seems like more of something you can do and not something that would really impact the story at all. You know, it didn't. I'm trying to find the best way to put this. Desarde's reaction with any of the romanceable characters at the end really wasn't worth going through all the effort to romance them. I like going in at 100% in games. I like doing as much as I can. So I of course jumped into it, but I also wanted to test out, see how well it was done. An example of a romance system that works fantastic would be either The Witcher, Mass Effect, or Dragon Age. Those 3 games do very, very well when it comes to romancing, and I think that they could probably explore upon it more here. But the relationship levels felt very basic, and it felt like it definitely could have been improved upon. I don't like that, you know, you didn't do something that someone liked, it's just -2, and now you went from friendly to nice, and now there's a possibility that they won't help you at the end of the game now, and that's just, it's like I still have a positive relationship with them, but it's, now I can't. I would appreciate something more in depth, like the Mass Effect games or the Dragon Age games, where you really have to dive in to make characters like you or make characters despise you for them to do something. It's not just something that's like on a table from 1 to 10 that, okay, once you max it out, you're good to go. It's more like you have a table from 1 to 1,000, and then you have to gradually fill that up, and it fluctuates. It feels more real with people. You know, the more you help people, the more people will understand and want to be with you, and not just, okay, well, you did 6 tasks for me, I'm your friend, and then at that very end you did something they didn't like, and then they're like, oh, screw you, and walk away. It's like, okay, well, no, I just did all this work for you. Like, come on. That I felt like could have been just improved upon. The storyline, not necessarily a con, it was very average and kind of predictable, and I thought definitely could have been better. It felt like the main threat this whole time was gonna be, you know, the build-up of the conflict with the natives and the factions that come in, the colonizers, and it's like that big, you know, rebellion with the High King, or big battle with the High King. I'm like, yes, we get this. And then overall you start seeing Constantine slowly change, and it's like, okay, he's the bad guy, or gonna be the bad guy. It's kind of obvious, especially after he gets healed from the Malachor. You definitely know he's the bad guy, and that transitions to the next point. Constantine is a very predictable villain, and I don't know if it's because his voice acting was terrible. I don't know if I would say terrible. His voice acting made it give away, because he would try to sound surprised, and it's like, dude, you're so full of it. I can obviously tell you're not being genuine, and I thought that really gave it away. During the battles of Hikmet and Samatias, you tell him things, and he's like, no way, no, I can't believe that happened. Tell me more. And it's like, dude, come on, like, you're not even trying. Kind of thing. It felt like he wasn't trying there, and he's a very predictable villain, and I thought it was very two-dimensional, and I don't know, I would have preferred a villain with more attached to it. You know, Constantine just wants to become a god. Oh. Or what about having Constantine separate from his father and finally, like, you know, show he is better than what his father makes him out to be. So, you know, at the end you have it so he's becoming a better man than his father. Or maybe even something crazy where you do have this High King rebel, and who would have a genuine and more emotional tie to the people and want to be a part of them, and want to defend them, because he has this connection with this character, or with this faction, and you would genuinely feel like, man, he's really trying to protect his people. But instead he's like kind of like a halfway there boss, and it's like, what? Just to make it so Constantine was the bad guy here. Enemy variants. Now, many games suffer from this, so I'm not just singling out this one for it. Essentially, enemies just get tougher as you progress, in the way that they're just quote-unquote bullet sponges. And instead of becoming harder to fight tactically or strategically, you just gotta hit them more. And the games I can list off the top of my head that, you know, get more difficult strategically would be obviously Dark Souls and then The Witcher to an extent. You know, characters will, or enemies will consistently change their tactics and attacks on you because you start learning them, and especially Dark Souls, you know, you actually have to adapt your playing style to it, and that's what I was hoping for. Instead, it's just more bullet sponges, and I thought, like, it could have been done a little bit better there too. The combat is clunky. It's obviously not the focus of the game. It's a bit annoying at times and very repetitive towards the end of the game, and really got kind of like, if you notice towards the end of the game, I skipped a lot of combat with just random enemies in the field. I'd be like, alright, I'm not dealing with you, I don't want to deal with you. So now we're getting back to the skills here. The attributes tree. I hated how long it took to level up. You got a skill point every 3 to 5 levels, and it took forever to get these skills, and it took forever to build whatever sort of character you wanted to make, because it took forever to get these skills. I ended at like level 38, 39 or something like that, I don't remember, but it's hard to, you know, play as a warrior where you need 5 endurance, 5 strength, or 5 agility, or 5 accuracy to have, you know, the really good stuff that you want, because that's, you know, if you need at least 10 skill points put into something that would be more beneficial to your character, but that's not including things like intuition that would be more beneficial for you to get past skill checks, or lockpicking, right? And like, these are 2 separate trees in this time, because they have the talent skill tree and then the skills, or the I guess quote unquote skills tree. The talents were annoying, or they had the attributes and then the talents. Sorry, the talents was annoying because it was impossible to get anything you would like a decent build. I basically ignored lockpicking because it was relatively nothing. I like doing charismatic runs with characters, and yet halfway through the game, the charisma meant nothing, and intuition meant everything when it comes to skill checks, and I was like, why? Okay, why not? Why are they separated then? If they're belonging in the same area, being used in the same area, then they should be something used together. When it came to the attributes, though, it was annoying because, you know, I'm trying to play as a warrior, but, you know, you need your strength up, you know, 5 to use the best weapons, and your endurance up to 5 to use the best armor. But if you want your gun to be the best, you need it plus 5 to get that. It's like you use so many skills and you just don't get enough, and it's frustrating. Faction relationships. So I said I'd get back to this as well. I did all the quests for everyone in the end, and yet it didn't matter for some of them. If you were quote-unquote nice with a faction, they will not help you at the end of the game, and that was infuriating. It's like, I just helped you with all this BS, and now you won't help me this one time? It felt like I wasted my time, and I'm specifically pointing at the Naughts in this situation. I did all this work for the Naughts, and I mean I did a lot of work with them, and it felt like at the end it was just a bunch of wasted time, because they're like, you're right, you did help us all this time, and you really did help us when it came to this, and I remember when you helped me with that, but screw you, I'm not helping you. And it's like, what is the point if I can only get you to nice? What is the point of me even helping you? Because that was just infuriating. Because it made it so if I wanted to replay, or wanted to get this achievement, because there's an achievement to get the perfect alliance, get all 5 factions to join you, the only way to get that is to get all the factions there. But now I have to go all the way and restart the game because the Naught missions are at the very beginning of the game just to get it. That's just like a, hey, you want this, gotta replay our game, ha ha ha. And it's like, oh, it's like, no. No, it's just like, it's just making someone replay the game for the sake of replaying the game to master it. And I thought I did very well my first playthrough. I got maybe like 70% of the trophies, and every single thing is a trophy. Romance Afra, Romance Petra, Romance Vasco, Romance Siora. It's like, so I have to do 4 separate playthroughs, or I have to just reload saves to get that. It's like, oh my gosh. And not Petrus, I meant Kurt, sorry. Can't romance Petrus. That's that's a little tedious in my book, and I thought that could have been definitely improved upon. Perhaps the biggest thing that got under my chest, or under my skin, the story fluff. A lot of missions felt unnecessary, unneeded, or bloated. It felt like they were there just to prolong the story, and I was like, there's multiple points in the game where I'm like, just get to the point. Like, just get to the point. Like, oh wait, just before you do this, you gotta go and travel for the next hour to do this. Oh wait, you thought before you get to the end you have to do all this, and it's like, are you serious? Just get me to the game. And this will transition to my next point. I read an article, and I don't remember exactly which publication it was, but they said this game is a great example of when you don't have fetch quests in the game and how well it is done. And I could not disagree anymore. There are very few fetch quests here, and I've seen a lot of praise for it, but the quote-unquote fetch is replaced with go here, talk to them, and come back, or go here, kill them, and come back. There is no fetching, it's an action. It's a do this, then come back. So they just replaced the hey, grab this, come back, with a hey, talk to them, come back. And I couldn't tell you how many missions are in this game where it's go here, talk to that person. Oh, you want my response? You have to now do a mission for me. Oh, you want my response? You have to do a mission for me. And it would just, oh, you want my help? Well, guess what? You have to do something for me, kind of thing. And it's like this one mission spans into 4 more because you have to consistently help everybody. And then once it comes back, it all narrows down to, what the hell, man? I want to just be done. I'm sick of running everywhere. You move so much in this game, and I gotta say, it's so infuriating. I was so sick of the go here, talk to them, come back, talk to that person, then go back to the place where he told you to go where you were supposed to go to in the first place. Talk to that person a second time, and then have to go back and talk to your quest giver a third time. Oh, it's like, oh my god, it goes into the fluff. It felt like it was there for the sake of being there, and just to make the game longer. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like it was needed. It felt like it was, well, we have like a 20-hour game, let's add about 10 more hours in here of just that. And oh my god, it was difficult. I guess transitioning to here, the no end game thing bugged me. I love games that are open world and expansive and large. What infuriates me more in any open world game is that you have this world, you beat the game, and then you can't go explore it. You have to restart the game or reload a save. It's like, are you serious? You built this world and you're not gonna let me explore it without having to restart or reload a save. That, it feels, I've just always disliked that in games. I think the first game I really got upset with it was in Mafia 2. I don't want to replay the story. Sometimes I just want to walk around in the world, but have all my good stuff, not have to go through the entire game. And I like having that, completionist thing, so I don't like having all the missions in my thing to have to be like, hey, you gotta do that, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. I like being like, yeah, look at that clear map, no collectibles are left, nothing's left, I did everything, so it's good to go. And it's just like, why not? Why does this not have an end game? That's all I need to know. Why? Now the map, I didn't have a huge issue with the map. The map did feel limiting. I felt like it could have been bigger, and it felt a lot like Dragon Age 2, which I never had a big issue with. I didn't have a big issue with Dragon Age 2, but it felt a little bit like Dragon Age 2 in terms of the style of the map. You had your cities, and then you had your kind of like your dungeons. So, yeah, take it as you will. Now, this game is very reliant on dialogue. Earlier, I talked about the quests and having to go here and talk to them. The game is so heavy on dialogue. And I mean, there were many moments in this game I wanted to yell at the characters to shut up. because I was sick of hearing them talk. It felt like a lot of characters talked for the sake of talking. And it's like, dude, you like hearing yourself talk, don't you? And it was like, oh, I couldn't tell you. It was frustrating. Now, the fast travel was useless. It felt useless. The camps were 30 seconds away from other spawns. There were campsites outside of villages that you could spawn at. There were campsites outside of roads which you could spawn at. It was just redundant. You didn't need it. There are no faster ways to travel. There's no horse. There's no like carriage. There's like you have the carriage. You could fast travel to other cities, but you're telling me with all the movement you have to do in that game, all the running around you have to do, they couldn't have thrown in a horse to get from point A to B faster? And I thought that would really come to mind for people who are developing a game where it's consistently traveling. And I mean consistently. I don't think I've moved more in a game than I did in this game. It was just, wow. Well, look at that. We got about 9 minutes of, good things and a good, I don't know, 15 minutes of rough things. Not that bad, honestly. I've had, longer reviews where I've shit on games. But I'm very critical on games, but overall, I think I'm pretty justified in why. So, overall, compared to Dragon Age, The Witcher, the Mass Effect games, the RPG games that really define this genre here, this game does struggle. It's incredibly ambitious, but it falls flat a lot. Where the game shines, it is very, very bright, and that's when it comes to the companions and the side quests. You could tell there was a lot of time and a lot of effort put into this. But when it comes to other areas, you could definitely tell where they cut corners. When a character goes to drink something, instead of seeing them the animation of them drinking something, it cuts to black and comes back. And those things don't really necessarily bug me, but you could definitely tell where they cut corners when it comes to that kind of stuff. And whether that was a deadline or something else, it doesn't matter. But as an indie game or a AA game, it does well. I would say, would be better if it was meant to be compared to those level of games. However, in a world where we do have The Witcher, the Dragon Age, the Mass Effects, it just doesn't hold up. I think it's a new world, and it has a strong example of, if it had AAA funding, this game could have easily been so much more, and could have been something that you could greatly compare to the Witchers, the Mass Effects, the Dragon Ages. You could really compare it to those and see that a new franchise can be just as good, right? But we didn't get the AAA funding here. I put roughly 36 hours into it. This game could have easily been 26, I would say 26 to 30 hours if the fluff was taken out. If the unnecessary and the redundant quests were taken out, I think this game could have easily been shorter. Initially, I believe in my review of it, I gave something like a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. I'm going to be a lot more critical here. This game could have been a lot more, and for someone who was really looking forward to this game and then finally getting the opportunity to play it, and I didn't overhype this game, I didn't look at anything about this game for the last 3 years. I essentially, looked at the teaser trailer, got into it, didn't see anything about it until last E3, where I was like, hey, it's coming out, cool. Didn't look at anything else after that. Got the game, played the game. That is all the expectations I had coming into this game. So it's not like I overhyped the game for myself and was disappointed. Nope, I was excited about the game because it looked cool, and I got it, and I played it, and that was it. So my final verdict is a 5.5 out of 10, which is probably the lowest game I've rated on here, with the exception of potentially Blades, but I don't know if I'm going to count Blades here. Like I said, it stands out well where it does, but where it falls flat on its face a lot. There were a few bugs I encountered during the game that really didn't necessarily affect my review. I understand a game is buggy sometimes, it happens. It wasn't broken by any means necessary, but it definitely was noticeable at some parts. But I think there should have been a bit more emphasis on the story and the possibility of where things could go. Part of me felt like they had an idea, the developers at least, of, you know what, Constantine would be a good villain, but they didn't necessarily know how to get to that. And so instead of going in a route that seems more likely, they went with that whole shock factor. And it wasn't shocking. It felt kind of expected, right? It was predictable. And so I don't know if that's what the intended developers did. Overall, the developers did a phenomenal job. You know, I can never discredit the developers. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money and resources to put into making and creating a video game. I can't discredit any of that work at all. Any of it. None of it. Nothing. I can't discredit it. But at the end of the day, I can critique the overall game itself. And I think in a world, like I said, in a world without AAA RPGs, this game would have been phenomenal. But I think the issue is it was already done in a way. You know, there wasn't really necessarily anything new that this game introduced into the genre, which also kind of hurt it in a sense. You know, it's a good attempt at a new storyline, right, and a new RPG game, you know. Part of me hopes they get the necessary funds, and Spiders at least, the necessary funds and the attention to make a second game if need be, and go forward again, because I feel like they could definitely use this as a stepping stone to get so much more. And I would kind of hope so too, because I would like to see more of this game, but I would like to see more new and less of the stuff that we got. Games like Shadow of Mordor and War stood out because, and those were relatively short games, they're only like 20-25 hours. They stood out because they had things like the Nemesis system that really made and defined that game and made the game even better. Or games like Uncharted 4 or The Last of Us. Again, not very long games, but they had very compelling stories and very good voice acting, and just overall made you get attached to the characters. Or take God of War, for example, a game that kind of lacked in bosses and boss battles, really dug deep into the story and the combat. The combat was phenomenal in that game. So each game kind of should have their own little trope and, you know, unique thing to it. And this game kind of felt like it was lacking that little identity that really defined what this game was. And so I think 5.5 out of 10 is a perfect score for it. It was very average, you know, and I think those good things just shine a little, you know, couldn't shine just bright enough on it. And I think it was a lot of the small things that started taking this game down a peg or two. There were obviously a few, you know, big things that took this game down a peg or two, but there were also the smaller things that really were like, ooh, you know, every now and then it's like, oh gosh. But you know, that's my review. I tend to do very honest reviews. I obviously at the beginning of this, I stated that I was actually genuinely very excited about this game, and I was really hoping that this game would be good. But I'm not afraid to rip apart games I'm really looking forward to, or games I really like. So I think this is a, you know, I feel like I'm pretty decent at giving reviews, and I feel like I give very critical reviews, regardless of, you know, whether or not I like the game or not. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this kind of review, and if there's any other games you would like me to quote-unquote walk through, I am more than happy to do so. I love walking through games. I plan on doing The Witcher 3 soon. I was going to do it once I finished this game, so The Witcher 3 will be coming up. I also believe The Last of Us 2 is coming out in February, so I will be getting that. I have already, you know, set it up so I can, so expect that to come out. But yeah, you know what, if there's any other games that you feel I should take an interest in and walk through to give my honest and most genuine review to, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to go over it. The only way I could give an actual review of a game is if I play it as much as possible and as long as possible. I could give this kind of review because I played everything this game has to offer. I was able to give Assassin's Creed Odyssey the review I was able to because I put 100 hours into the game and platinum trophied it. I was able to do that because I literally put the time and effort into the game to do it. And I feel like that's why my reviews tend to be a bit more honest, a bit more critical, and a bit more genuine, and I feel like that really comes off. Hence why these review videos tend to be anywhere from 20 to 30 minute range, maybe even 40 minutes, because I do like diving into the critical analysis of video games. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with this game, with my points in the game? Did you like something that I disliked? Did you dislike something that I liked? I would like to know in the comments below. We can talk about it all you want. We can talk about it in Discord chat as well. And really, if there's anything else you want to talk about, you know, if there's things I forgot or missed or didn't kind of cover as much as you would like, let me know in the comments below as well. I would like to know more. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace. If you just happened to stumble upon this video and enjoyed, maybe consider subscribing. If you are a returning subscriber and you enjoyed, please hit that like button. It really helps way more than you actually think it would. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.